peace or about to run. The president has been hammered by Republicans for his response to this continuing crisis in Ukraine. But history looms over this conflict. One could argue that the parallels between the Obama administration's response now and the Bush administration's stance back in 2008 during Putin's invasion of the country of Georgia actually show some striking similarities. This is what the Russian incursion into Crimea in the Ukraine looks like this week.
We are now deeply concerned by reports of military movements taken by the Russian Federation inside of Ukraine.
This is what the Russian incursion into Georgia looked like in 2008.
I've just received an update from my national security team on the situation in Georgia.
The situations were different in many ways, of course. Putin was prime minister of Russia then, not president, though he was widely regarded to have been calling the shots. But in both cases, Russia sent troops into another sovereign country, a former Soviet Socialist republic, upsetting an American president who had tried to improve relations. This week, Republicans slammed President Obama's response to the crisis.
I've always believed that this administration was incredibly naive about Putin. Our lack of a concise and clear foreign policy has destabilized parts of the world.
We have a weak and indecisive president that invites aggression.
Obama and Bush are, of course, quite different, but it turns out, looking back to 2008, their responses to Russia's belligerence are not that unique.
John Kerry is going to be traveling to Kiev to indicate our support for the Ukrainian people.
Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice is in Tbilisi. She's conferring with President Saakashvili and expressing America's wholehearted support for Georgia's democracy.
The steps Russia has taken are a violation of Ukraine's sovereignty, Ukraine's territorial integrity.
We'll continue to stand behind Georgia's democracy. We'll continue to insist that Georgia's sovereignty and independence and territorial integrity be respected.
Back then, conservatives largely excused Bush. Columnist Charles Krauthammer on Fox in 2008.
Well, obviously it's beyond our control. The Russians are advancing. There's nothing that will stop them. We're not going to go to war over Georgia.
Here's Krauthammer on Special Report with Brett Baird this week.
I think that's unwise to take everything off the table. What if there's a full-scale invasion all the way to Kiev? You're going to do nothing?
Conversely, on ABC News this week with George Stephanopoulos in August 2008, Democrat Tom Daschle said this type of crisis was precisely the reason why then-Senator Obama's brand of leadership was needed.
What kind of attention would he be?
Well, he calls early on for a military action plan for NATO, working with Georgia to try to deal with these issues preemptively, try to deal with them in a much more aggressive way up front.
Senator Daschle's